Hey listeners, welcome back to the Dreadful Dialogue podcast. My name is Alyse, and as usual, I am your host. Today I have a new guest with me. You can see him, he's wearing his mask right now. He is a regular cosplayer, and he's wearing a mask from Satan's Little Helper. At some point, he's going to take off his mask and he'll tell us more about that character if you're not familiar with the movie. But his name is Nelson. He has a YouTube channel, NSC Productions, and at the end, we'll make sure we tell you all about that. Today we're going to be talking about the movie The People Under the Stairs, and this is from 1991. And before we get into the movie and before our guest takes off his masks for us, I'll give you guys a little synopsis of the movie. And I didn't make this up. This comes straight from YouTube. From Google, so I can't take credit from it. So it says, when young Fool, and that's the name of the main character, breaks into the home with his family's greedy and uncaring landlords, he discovers a disturbing scenario where incestuous adult siblings have mutilated a number of boys and kept them in prison under stairs in their large, creepy house. As Fool attempts to flee before the psychopaths can catch him, he meets their daughter, and I say that with quotes, okay, who has been spared any extreme discipline by her deranged parents. Can Alyse and Fool escape before it's too late? And as usual, we're going to spoil this movie, so if you're not prepared to be spoiled, please check out that movie. So Nelson, it's good to have you. How are you doing? He's going to go ahead and show his face at this point for us. It's a really cool mask.
Sorry about that. I'm not used to talking much.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So like I said, The People Under the Stairs. So you reached out to me and said you wanted to talk about this movie. So can you tell me why you chose this movie and if you remember the first time you saw it?
I chose this movie because it was always that street where the house is from. It's always a very unique street. It's in Crenshaw near Baldwin Hills. And all the properties there, they have like this old looking, like kind of New Orleans plantation style homes. Like they don't look nothing like the rest of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very eerie there because, it's right next to a church. It's on a street that's not really accessible. You have to like make some turns, and that house, it's very like separated from the neighborhood. You can tell, like it's like it has a huge lawn, a huge yard, and it just looks like, a creepy house people tell you to stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
It's painted black and brown. It looks like I've lived there. I think I've lived in this neighborhood like all of my life, and I've never really seen anyone in there. It's just always had that spooky element to it. And when my dad told me about it, he told me it was from a movie called People Under the Stairs. Like the vibe you get from the movie from seeing that house is the exact same thing you'll get when you see it in person.
Wow.
It's just eerie.
Yeah, I had houses like that growing up in my neighborhood where people would be like, oh, don't go there. And I think part of it, like, I don't think the houses actually had anything going on. I think they were just like old and dilapidated. But as a child, it was like a way to get to you. So that's really cool. So do you live in like walking distance from the house that this took place at?
Yes. After I saw the movie about it, it still has that eerie vibe to it. Like, I do know, like, I've never seen anyone in it, only on Halloween, because I do know it gets rented out for parties. And, like, even the parties, like, I've been on Facebook and Instagram, and I never really know, like, they have security at the front, and it's like, invite-only guest list.
Gotcha.
I never knew, like, what parties associated with that house, but all over the neighborhood and, like, those plantation houses, they do have like little like mazes or haunted house things going on during Halloween. So it's like the house is like they don't even have to change it much. It just looks like perfectly for Halloween.
Got you. So then it was a great setting for the movie then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I did a little personal research, and I think I saw that it's called the Thomas W. Phillips Residence, and people aren't familiar with the areas that you're naming. So it's like in the greater LA area. Then I got not get as specifics with geography in case people don't know SoCal very well. And I guess it's a monument, and it was owned by Butterfly McQueen at one point, and she's an actress from the movie Gone with the Wind, and it's been used. I think it said for a scene in Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween. And then also and I'd never seen this movie, a 1989 horror comedy called The Immortalizer. So I learned something new. I don't know if you'd heard anything about those films as well being filmed there.
I've seen the Halloween. I remember that house in the movie. I've never seen the Mortalizer. It must be like a B movie.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is. It didn't seem. I had never heard of it. So do you remember the first time that you actually? I mean, after your dad told you about the house, do you remember the first time you saw the movie and like what was your initial reaction to it?
My dad was always weird with me in horror. Like I would watch scary movies as a kid, and I was just never really freaked out by it. And I wanted to see this movie so badly. I kind of begged him, but it was back in the day where you would have to actually find the DVD. And I remember we found it, and I was like, the cover art for the movie was, it's very bland. It's kind of the movies you'll probably pass by Blockbuster, but I knew Blockbuster didn't have it back then. And from watching it, I was like, wow, like it's very jumpy. It's like, I didn't understand the plots of the movie when I was younger.
Same.
Like I didn't understand most of the jokes and even the incest thing. I kind of flew over my head when I was like, I think 10.
Yeah.
And from seeing it, I was like, okay, now I have a perfect reason to stay away from that house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think.
because
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
my bad.
Oh.
Oh,
I think for me the same thing happened. Like all the social commentary, all the like themes that were going on. I think as a child they'll go over your head. As watching it, and I hadn't seen this since I was a little kid, and then I had seen it maybe once in my like 20s. I'd seen it again. And when you said you wanted to watch it, the same thing, I had to like go find it. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. So for me, it was almost like watching it for the first time, even though I'd seen it before. And I definitely did not catch all of that as a kid. I didn't understand like that there was gentrification going on. I didn't understand that like, all the bad things that were going on in the neighborhood. I didn't understand that that couple was not actually married. I don't even think I understood that Alyse was like technically kidnapped. I just saw it as like, oh, there's these creepy people in a house and they're capturing people and they're using them to eat them. Or I didn't catch all that. Watching it through like the lens of an adult, there's definitely a lot going on that I don't think kids would catch.
it surprised me because the movie is directed by Wes Craven. Nightmare on Elm Street, and it just seems like a big jump from Freddy Krueger to this. And I like some of the like I have to rewatch it a couple of times to get like the perfect understanding of what they're talking about. Like as a kid, I didn't know nothing about gentrification. I just saw an innocent family on hard to luck getting kicked out of their house, and
Yeah.
he's trying to help out his family. Like I think I kind of thought that was like kind of like the Goonies. You know,
Yeah. It has Goonies vibes.
Goonies vibes, but like actually, if you think about it, it kind of is like Goonies. Like Sloth is like those people under the stairs. He's not a villain. He's just
Roach. Yeah.
yeah. Roach doesn't even look that creepy. Actually, I met Roach.
Oh, really? Sean Whalen, right? The actor?
Yeah, I met him, and it was at Monster Palooza, and like I remember he wasn't even like advertising that he was there. There was no table for him. He was just walking around as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I met him and I was like, I did not know his name. I'm very terrible with names. So I said, "You're Roach." And he has that same smile. You can see in his gums and everything. Very nice guy though. He was just super cool.
Uh-huh.
And we
Yeah.
talked about that movie.
Yeah. I don't think his character's. I don't think, to be honest, like the people under the stairs, they're not physically scary to me. Like, I don't think the movie itself is scary, and it's advertised as a horror comedy. I mean, there's some good comedy, right? Like Ving Rhames, I don't even remember his character's name, right? The one who puts Fool up to helping him rob the house. Like he's got some crazy one-liners. Like there's some comedic elements to it, and I think you made a good point. Like it's a weird jump from Wes Craven. It's a little different than his other films. But then you start thinking about Freddy Krueger as he goes through the franchise. Like he just gets funnier and sillier. Um, but yeah, there's so much stuff going on that you can kind of get lost in it. I almost wish that they didn't put so much in it. Like if they would have, I think they could have honed in on more on like we're gonna focus on the gentrification and just the racism. But then they added like tons of other layers of things that even as like an adult, like you would have to watch it several times to catch all these things. And I think like it makes the message kind of fall by the wayside. And it doesn't quite go with it. It's like either I think they could have gotten really dark with it because the concept is super scary, or they could have just gone full comedic and not even had that. I don't know. It's a confusing movie in the sense of like it's comedy, it's horror, but to me it's like the people itself are not actually scary looking, just the concept is scary of like what mama and daddy would, I mean, they don't ever give them names. What they're doing is scary.
I have no idea what their names are either. Like there were parts where like I did kind of feel a little bit like it's a little bit too much. Definitely like I wish they would have stuck a little more to horror.
Mm-hmm.
Because the comedy is good in the beginning, but then it's also like, like they could have maybe one-upped it. Because Freddy Krueger, there are comedic moments like in the sequels, but then everybody loves the originals where they're really dark, it's creepy, it's gory, and it's like there's scenes that stick with you the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. I read
like,
that. Oh, go ahead, finish.
At the end, it's a great ending, but also it's just kind of like I wish for something more.
Yeah, like again, because it had a message, but it was like, okay, well, the problem was solved for their neighborhood, but like, what about other people? Because again, they brought in the fact that like the cops were just oblivious, and like they don't come out and say it, but like were the cops oblivious because they were a white family, and like were people just oblivious to like there's shooting going on, and like I mean, I guess you can grow up in neighborhoods where that's like a normal thing, and certain people also have fear of like calling the cops, But it was like, what are they going to do about it? It's just like, oh, well, the people under the stairs are free now and they're just going to wander off and like nobody's going to do any, like there was no like you said, I think they could have done more with it, but then I guess that would have made it in a different movie. I don't know.
Like seeing from my point of view, like with the Fool and his family, like, I'm glad that got solved, but like part of me does feel like that building should have been knocked down because remember when he went in there, it was full of crackheads, rats, and prostitutes, and I'm kind of like, hopefully use the money to move out of the neighborhood. He's trying to save it, but also it's kind of like, oh man, it's kind of a tough one for me.
Yeah,
it's like things were solved, but not everything is solved yet. There's still a lot more problems.
Yeah, I mean, the only way they could do that is they would have to have like a sequel, or it would have been a much longer movie, and then it wouldn't have been a horror movie. It would have been I think it would have been like a drama at that point. So yeah, I think they were confused. Like they started, you made a good point. Like they started heavy with the comedy, and then they kind of weaned off the comedy, and I felt like the movie didn't know where to go. And I read that Wes Craven was even trying to like remake the movie. He kept wanting to remake it, and I guess like it just never happened, whether it was finances, and he was even considering making a miniseries. And I think I would be curious to know why he wanted to remake it so bad. And I'm wondering if that's why, because he felt like things weren't completed the way he wanted, or there was just so much heavy-handedness in some parts and then not heavy-handed enough in some areas that, that he thought there could have been a better way to do it.
Wes Craven does a lot of good movies. He does some great ones, and his name is just known everywhere. People Under the Stairs, that's just it's a movie that nobody really knows about. Like whenever I hang out with people that love horror, I show them the horror houses around LA. Like I know where the Insidious house is, the Freddy Krueger house, and every time I show them People Under the Stairs, they're generally they have no idea anything about the house. Like it's just like even to find it is really difficult. It's just it's a really movie that's like swept under the rug, and I think like there was a lot of thought to put into it. You can tell like had a big imagination, but it's just it just was hard to pull off.
Yeah, for sure. What did you think about the character Fool? Or I guess his real name is Poindexter. I call him Fool because that's what they call him throughout the movie. What did you think about his character?
He was very brave, but also like he dealt with like a lot of on his shoulders. Even when like at the age was he 13?
I think so. I know it starts out with his birthday, but he's not. Yeah, he. I mean, he might even be younger than that. I don't recall, but he's definitely not old enough to be like doing what he's doing. But yeah, he had a lot on his shoulders, right? Like you said earlier, he's trying to help his family.
Yeah, and his mom told him, you're the man of the house now. Like I've seen that in a lot of movies, and he's trying to provide for everybody, and even what's his name? I know he came out in Pulp Fiction, or
Ving
was that somebody
Rhames.
else? Feeding
Ving
Grains.
Rhames. I don't
Maybe
remember
I
his
got.
character. The one who's putting him, the one who's like, "Hey, we're gonna go steal these gold from your landlords," and
Yeah, and like they're all putting on his shoulders when I'm like, wait a minute, his sister's right there, and they got kids, and it's like, well, what is she really doing? Like everyone's kind of looking at him for help. Is all on his burden, and he does take the responsibility. I think he was a great character. I loved him. He was kind of like one of the Goonies. He would have been like one of the perfect one of the kids. He was really brave. He was kind of funny too, and
yeah,
it's like even when he was doing the bear scout was like one of the
yeah,
Boy
yeah. It
Scouts.
was supposed to be like a knock. I don't think they wanted to. It wasn't an actual what do you call them? Boy Scouts. I think he was a Bear Scout, right? It's just a version
Yeah,
of it.
everyone just expected like you're supposed to be an adult now. And it's like he's just a kid trying to grow up and provide for everybody. He can't have all of this on his shoulders, but he pulled it off at the end. He was
Yeah.
really likable. I really liked him.
Yeah, that actor's been in a lot of things. He was in you said we keep talking about Goonies, but he was like a big child actor. He was in The Sandlot, the Mighty Ducks movies.
The
So
Michael Jackson video.
yeah, you know what, you're right.
He was young Michael.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're right. He was in that one. The one where like the long one. What was that one called? Where he's got the white
I
hat and
for,
he's dancing, right?
was it Smooth Criminal?
Smooth Criminal? I think so. I think you're right.
No.
Yeah, he was in that one. I did forget that I read that. And then that's really cool.
You
So
know you know why I picked this? Because I remember when I found your we were talking about movies, I saw a Fresh Prince of Bel Air episode and he came out in it.
oh
And
wow.
and I was like, I don't know why. Like I only knew him as Fool, and I was like, we definitely got to talk about that because that's a movie even you didn't know about at first.
No,
Well,
I
not
knew
too
about the
much.
movie. I hadn't seen it in so long that I was like, ugh. I just like it. I remember again. I remember watching it as a kid, and it didn't scare me. Again, the adult themes went over my head. It kind of comes off as like an after school special. Like the only part that genuinely like I was like, ooh, that's scary was when mother's like when she chases Alice like at the end like when she's
Oh,
like turned around and she like shows her knife and she screams and she like chases her and then like Alice ends up on the stairs, right? And then the people come out from under, but like the mom's face, that actress's facial expression, like I literally was like, oh snap, she's gonna kill her. She's gonna kill her daughter. I mean, not her real daughter, but her pretend daughter, because they kidnapped her as a kid. But I'm like, oh my
yeah.
god, she's gonna kill her. And like then, and like I'm not usually scared of like knife scenes, but like the way she held that knife and like went after her and her facial expression, that scared me as a child. I do remember that scene. The people,
There
like I
was
said, the people itself didn't scare me. I like that they got her though, right? Like eventually
yeah.
the Alice stabs her and the people get her and she gets thrown in the basement. That's the only scene that really scared me. So I think that's probably also why I didn't rewatch it. I hadn't really watched it as an adult, I was like, it wasn't super scary. So it was fun to revisit it though. So thanks for suggesting it.
I think the scene that stuck with me the most was the bathtub, where like she has to cleanse herself. She puts her in scalding hot water, and even in the next scene, you can see her skin is all red. It's burning, and it's like, oh god, like you can tell, like you can see it from the movie that it's like steam's coming out of it, and you can tell that she's getting burned from it. I don't know if that's good acting or is that just like practical effects. I'm like, wow, that's diabolical stuff.
For sure, for
Even
sure.
cutting off, like body parts. Like when you see the people under the stairs, they're technically kids. But you see like parts of them, like they're deformed because they haven't seen sunlight, or they're missing parts of themselves. Like Roach doesn't have a tongue,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
can.
they've cut the
I
tongues off.
remember one. He had a mask on, like it's kind of like a medieval mask, like hiding this part.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I really wanted to see like what was up with them because when they got released, it's like, are they gonna get shot out in public or like are they just gonna be under the freeways? Like, what's going on with them? I wanted to know more about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't give us much detail about like, and I don't, and again, that's where like the story kind of got muddy. It was like, what were they trying to do with them? Because they kept talking about keeping, like, inferring that they needed to keep Alice like clean and pure, but then like
Yeah,
they were eating the people, and it's like, and then they were feeding the people to each other. Like that was kind of muddy. Like I wasn't quite sure, but then I was also like, I guess it just doesn't really matter. Like they're just really bad people doing bad things to kids. So that's how I
I
took it.
I just thought that's crazy. Like, they didn't know what was from what.
Hmm.
Like, it's just they were very money hungry, but they didn't do anything with it. It just had a whole bank vault with it.
Right? Yeah, I didn't
Whoa,
understand that either. I was like, they were like, what's that cartoon? Scrooge, like Scrooge McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck.
They just like, just
Yeah,
swimming in the gold coins. But I mean, I think they said they wanted to open office buildings or something. But again, it was like it didn't make sense. Like it didn't help with the story at all. But I guess they're not supposed to make sense because they're crazy. Like they're not right. Like you said, they're very disturbed people. Um. So yeah,
you
I didn't.
can't fight crazy. You can't argue with crazy. It's like, like they have a very shabby, like it's just it was a suburban home. It was better than the apartments they were they owned, but it was kind of like, what is the point of all of this? Like, to have kids, and also like who's gonna, like, are they gonna, is it gonna end with them? They did have families, and they had incest children, but it was kind of like, what really is the point? Like, you guys gonna get old and Alice is gonna finally escape, or what?
Yeah,
Like, they
they
were
didn't
looking
really
for the
tell us the end
perfect
game for them.
child. I think they didn't have it in the game. They were just like, they're living in the moment, just being crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were just living in the moment. And I think that was another issue again that I didn't pick up on it until I rewatched it, the fact that like all these children are missing and it's like, well, wouldn't somebody like why aren't people why haven't they been found? And I think that was another thing another undertone or another, social commentary issue that was put in the film was like, hey, these kids, nobody's looking for them because they're poor kids from a poor neighborhood, and they're, some of them were like kids of color, so it's like nobody cared. Um, and that's a theme again we could argue about that happens still sometimes in our society today. So I think that was something they were putting in there, but
Yeah.
they didn't close anything up on that. Like, was it investigated later? Like, oh, all the kids are going to be reunited, or I don't know.
I Actually, I don't think they were kids of color, because I saw most of them, they were gray, but also, Alice was white, and also Roach was white.
Yeah,
And I don't think they would be abducting, like, colored children.
yeah.
I
Huh.
do remember now. Do you remember when they're at the fireplace at the beginning? They were
Yeah,
talking about, now we can finally get good people living in those homes. She mostly said a lot of firewood for my fireplace and money. That's all they did. Like, they're literally gonna get the firewood from the broken down homes. It's kind of like, okay, is it really just out of greed? You just want to like save money on appliances and get more money.
yeah. I'm
It's
not sure.
it's kind of like, what's that show? I've seen it on TBS, I think. Cheapskates,
Hmm.
the stream cheesecakes. It was kind of like that. I was watching like some of those episodes. Like, it's kind of similar to there. It's a little bit there. You can't you can't explain it. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt like and maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought that there were some kids that were of different ones. I don't know. There was an obsession with like they were even worried that like Fool and Alice had hooked up, and it was like they weren't even alone together that long, and I mean they were definitely racist. But yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't make it make sense like why those people were being chosen and what their end game was. And I guess we could sit here and talk about that for a long time, but we're not going to have an answer. I think you're right. Like you can't make sense of crazy for sure.
One
Um,
person who can ask is Wes Craven. He's not around no more, huh?
yeah, I know. If Wes Craven was here, I'd be like, hey, dude, come on my podcast. I got to ask you all about this movie. I'm not that big yet, of course, but it would be cool to have a director.
I would
Um,
love, like, if you just got his like answer. Like, I have no idea. I was probably stoned when I made that movie. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, I don't think he knew. Like I said, there was so many like side stories going on that I think they could have like thrown some of them out. I mean, I think the idea was good, but the execution was kind of off, and you can't keep up with it. Um, as a viewer, even as an adult, I'm like, wait, okay, this and then this and this. Instead, it's like I just want to know, like, let's get to the part. I mean, and even some of the stuff with I felt like with um, the dog prince, I felt like they dragged some of that stuff on. I'm like, let's get to the actual people under the stairs. It took like an hour and some change into the movie before we actually saw any of the people under the stairs. And even then we just started by seeing like their hands or we didn't get a good emergence of them for till well into the movie because they
Like,
were focused on these themes.
there were a couple of them. Like, that's why I even mentioned the one with the mask. Like, you can't, there's a lot of backstory at just looking at them, but it's also very dark. They look like zombies straight up.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, I do know you can tell that some parts are missing from them. Like Roach is missing a tongue, but some of them, like, they've been like deformed because of that. What's that saying? See no evil, hear no evil, or
speak no
say
evil.
no evil.
Yeah, speak no
Yeah,
evil, hear no evil, see no evil. I think Alice says that, right? That's how she has to be.
yeah, and that's why they cut out Roach's tongue. It's like, like I wish I could have like seen all of them, like all the characters, but it's mostly just Prince and the angry incestuous couple.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like at the end we kind of get them, but we don't get them for very long. And it's like the happy ending part where it's like, oh, they killed mother, and then like the money and the electrocution of daddy, that it kind of like I lost focus on like actually looking at the people that were under the stairs. Other than I wondered like, well, where are they gonna go now? Because that's it. Like they don't have to be under the stairs. So, did you have?
I got
Oh, go ahead.
I got Leatherface vibes from that family. Definitely Leatherface.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote in my personal notes, that this movie was kind of like if Texas Chainsaw Massacre took place in like a neighborhood, right? In Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
like they're out in the middle of nowhere, like where you don't, and which is another reason that they were able to get away with what they were doing, right? Nobody's keeping an eye on them because they're in the middle of nowhere, and the people who are traveling, nobody. It wasn't during the time when like families were like you didn't have cell phones and stuff, so it was easier for people to get kidnapped and get abducted and things to happen to them. And the Robesons, I think that's their name, right? The couple, the Robesons, like they're doing this in the middle of a neighborhood, which, like you said, I think that adds to the scariness of that house.
Yeah, that neighborhood that it is filmed at, I would say it's kind of the middle of nowhere. Like, there's nothing really going on there, and it's like it's kind of a one-way street. It's just, it's not really like. Besides that, like if the church right next to it, there's not really a reason to be there.
Yeah. In the movie, they made it feel like it wasn't too far from like it wasn't too far from the city, because don't they show like a scene where they're looking out, I think, and you see like the city.
Yeah.
So they made it seem more accessible versus like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like they're literally in the middle, like it's one house in the middle of a field, like on a road. Whereas this one, it seemed like at least it was more accessible. So I think you're right with like it gave you Leatherface vibes. I think it's instead of Leatherface and his family, it's this couple and they're in a house that's not too far from a neighborhood, and they're doing essentially the same sort of things.
Yeah. But
But
I've always like that house always just freaked me out. Like even now, like I know the backstory about it. It's just a movie. It's still like I've seen the photos of inside the house. It just feels old. Like like exactly like the movie. Old. Like a lot of backstories here, and it's not really a place you want to live at. Like I don't even think they have a TV there. I don't think even in the movies they didn't have a TV there.
yeah, I don't know. They don't offer tours or anything like that. Like since it's like considered I think it's considered like a historically cultural house or monument.
Not really. They don't like it's always available for filming because people like people just know the house for that movie really, but it's mostly just like it's open during the Halloween season, and you got to be like specifically invited to that place.
Got you. So a private event.
Yeah, it's very private. Like, yeah, there's not much people know about it. Even living there, it's just like it's a movie house, but it's always like secluded, very like it's just infamy there.
Do you think that the movie, like the makeup and all that? I mean, I know you said they look like zombies. Do you think it holds up to like our standards now, or did it not age well?
Like it kind of gave me Thriller vibes. I know to bring back Michael Jackson. Like it looked pretty good, but it's just kind of like they didn't focus too much on it. Like the people the people on the stairs, you want to see them. It's like you've been waiting the whole time, and you're gonna get glimpses of it, but it's not too much. Like there's not like a big finale. like they look pretty cool, but it kind of matches like 90s aesthetics.
Yeah, it had 80s aesthetics, but I mean, it was a 1991 movie, so I mean that makes sense, right? It's
Yeah.
technically the 90s, but it's like you could call it the late 80s. It's not like we put a deadline like, okay, it's now officially the 90s and the look should change. It's still gonna have it still had those 80s vibes. I really liked though. I hadn't realized I'd forgotten how many actors were in this. Have you ever seen the movie Summer School from the
Summer
80s?
School.
With like this
No,
teacher
I don't
called
think
Mr.
so.
Shoop, and well, so Summer School's funny. It's not a horror movie, but there is these two characters in it that are like diehard horror fans. But the girl who played the sister, what was her name? Ruby.
Ruby.
Yeah, Kelly Jo Minter, I believe the actress's name. She's in that. She's in Summer School. So just a side note to the listeners, even though I love horror movies, I really love 80s movies. She's in Summer School. She plays Denise, and when I saw her, I was like, oh, I like her. I recognized her voice. I really like the grandpa too. Bill Cobbs, he was a great actor. Of course, Ving Rhames is playing the dude.
Leroy.
Leroy. It hit me finally. I was like, what is that? I keep
Yeah.
calling him, yeah. And then AJ Langer is playing Alice. And if anybody was like a fan of My So-Called Life, she was in that show too. So I didn't realize
I
again how many actors were in it till I did it till you were like, hey, let's cover this movie. And I was like, all right, let me get a good rewatch in.
Yeah, there's a lot of good names, connected to this. Even Fool's character, he was up and coming. Actually, I know he's doing voice acting now, but I think I met his mom before.
Oh, really? Was she
Yeah.
an actress or?
No, she works at UCLA. Like my dad knows her, and that's the weird thing about that. Like, I keep coming back to this movie. There's always like something connecting me to this movie. He does voice acting. It's just that it's like when he was coming as a child actor, he didn't get a sense of being a kid, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like Macaulay Culkin, and he just wanted to like enjoy his teen life. But
Yeah.
coming back to acting, he's mostly just doing like voiceover roles.
Okay. So what other connections do you have to the movies? You're saying the house, um, knowing the mom of the actor that played Fool. Are there any other connections or things that you say keep bringing you back to this movie?
It's just that I'm always near it. Like it's always super close, and it's just like every time like I'm with horror fans, that's like the first thing I ask them because I want to know, okay, how much of a horror fan are you? Or you just know the big ones, Chucky, Jason, or do you know like the stuff that that you actually gotta look for? Because even Satan's Little Helper, People Under the Stairs,
Hmm.
they're kind of like small horror movies that people just there's a cult following for them.
Yeah. It's definitely one that I'll add into my repertoire and keep my eye on. I think I'm gonna end up watching it again because I just want to catch even more of um the stuff that's happening. So were there any other like funny scenes or disturbing scenes that really stuck with you?
Funny scenes, there was a lot actually. I loved Roach. I think I loved all of the scenes with him because he was like, he was kind of like a comedy break from the movie. Like Fool is funny, but like Roach, he was having fun shooting people in the face with
Hmm.
the slingshot. Like he wasn't even trying to kill Prince. He just dropped him down into like the slide. And
Yeah.
Roach was just, I think like Sean Whalen played him really good though. Like even the way he like passed away though, kind of like right when he died, you could tell like the movie shifted. Like
Hmm.
now things have gotten real. Even when Leroy died, it wasn't that crazy, but with Roach, it's kind of like, okay, now they're pretty much doomed.
Hmm.
Because he's been living in that house for like the whole movie. Like I
Yeah.
actually wanted to see more if like they did do a mini series, kind of his point of view, like what happened with him.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, with the point of view of of one of the people that were under the stairs. It's amazing because we spend more time with Leroy as a character. I mean, granted, he's a scumbag. I mean, the way he's like abusive towards Denise and Fool, and like the way he talks about women and stuff. I mean, he's funny. Some of his lines are hilarious. I mean,
Yeah.
you watch him strictly for a comedic point. But like, I didn't care when he died. I was like, I wasn't rooting for him. But Roach, we spent such a small amount of time with him, yet I was totally rooting for him. And like, I was bummed when he died. Whereas when Leroy or Spencer, I mean, we didn't spend much time with Spencer anyway. But when they died, it was like, whatever. You just moved on. Like I cared about Fool and Roach. I hate to say it, maybe a little more than Alice. I did care about Alice, but it was just you
Yeah.
felt for you because you didn't know much about Roach, but Sean Whalen nailed it, and that was his first big movie role, and I think he did a great job.
Yeah, it was really good. Like the one thing I did like about Leroy was how he told him to run. Like remember when he said, "Run, fool, run."
Run fool,
Kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
yeah, he was a scumbag, but I don't think he was a bad dude. Like, like it kind of showed him, like, what, he's actually like kind of a human. He does want to help out, Fool. He's kind of a jerk, definitely, but he was, there was some redeeming qualities in there. But
yeah. I
it
think they were trying to
also,
redeem him, but I don't know how well they did at it. Personally, I don't think they
yeah,
did too good.
especially with he made him with a decoy with the dog. I'm gonna swing at him, and I just want you to stay right there, be right there. The dog was smart. I think the Prince, Prince was scarier than Daddy.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't like saying that now. What the hell was
Daddy
his
was
name?
weird to me. Like even though I knew he was a bad guy, it was like, what was up with the outfit? Like, why did he need to don the outfit?
The Gimp outfit?
And how did he
Oh
don
my!
that thing so quick all the time? He had it on, then he had it off, then he had it on, and I'm like, dude, that thing had to have been hard to get in and out of, right? Because it's like leather or pleather or vinyl. I don't know
But
what
why?
material. I've never seen one, but whatever material was, I'm like, that had to have been hard
That
to like squeeze himself in and out of. And why did he
but
need to wear it?
why a Gimp outfit though? It's sort of like, okay, now that I'm talking about it, that flew over my head. It's a Gimp outfit. It was it leathery, had like these little spikes on it.
Yeah, yeah,
He had
like
a
the
shotgun.
chains. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, man! Like, there's got to be some crazy thing going on in that bedroom.
I don't want to think about that with him and the chick. Which those
Now, even her, she looked like, nothing against the actress. Like the makeup looked good, but she's kind of like, oh man, that's gotta be some sick stuff
Yeah,
to walk it into.
mom nailed like her face mother's facial expressions were so good. Like she had a scary face. And I've never seen Twin Peaks. Have you ever watched the show Twin Peaks?
I've seen a couple episodes.
I guess okay, so I've seen just like the first two. It's one of those shows like I say one day I'm going to sit down and like and watch it. I guess the actors who play mother and daddy were in Twin Peaks and they were hired because of the characters. They didn't play the same type of characters, but I think they played a couple and that they really liked them. And so they were hired specifically and they made her look like her same character. I think she was like a waitress if I read it correctly. And that she
Yeah,
looked that same way because she looked like she was in like a time capsule. Like she looked very 50s, like her hair, the way it was curled and her makeup and even the way she dressed. It was like she was trying to put out this persona that she was like this perfect housewife type lady. And she had all this sinister stuff going on. And apparently her and her man slash brother has some weird stuff going on I mean, not to kink shame them, to each their own, but I just didn't understand why he had to don
nah,
the outfit when he was doing stuff to them kids. It was,
nah, they deserve all that shame
yeah.
because it was definitely like like they did want to go for that 50s 40s like lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even see like a TV in there. Alice's room is very old.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't look like a place where a kid will be.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like I think they were stuck in time. Like I bet that was the time period that like they thought will be like the golden age.
Yeah.
Definitely pro racism. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
like like that whole lifestyle, that culture. But the gimp outfit, I want to know like, okay, you know what? We're gonna stay in the 50s, but the gimp outfit is coming with us. Why the gimp outfit?
I don't know, man. That weirded me out. I was like, what the heck? When I first
See
saw him put
that
it on, I'm all, why does I was like, okay, I didn't see that. I didn't remember that part from originally watching it.
Leroy was from Pulp Fiction, right? He was
Yeah.
Mr.
Which isn't that funny? A connection later with the gimp outfit.
Oh God, no, man. Pulp Fiction, that scene.
Uh,
Wait, did he get killed with the gimp outfit too? 'Cause I remember he
no,
got
he
shot.
gets out. Remember Bruce Willis's character Butch saves him. I think Butch.
No,
Butch.
no, no. And people on the stairs. Was he wearing the gimp outfit when he shot him?
Oh, I don't remember. Gosh, I'd have
That
to
would be
rewatch
just
that.
awful, man. Like that's a
It's
callback.
like
Like,
maybe
oh yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. Wait a minute, we figured out. Okay, Quentin Tarantino, we're on to you. We totally figured out where you came up with the idea for the gimp outfit for Pulp Fiction because you're like, wait a minute, I got Ving Rhames in this
Give me
movie.
1 second. We gotta look. We gotta see what
About
came first.
yeah, we're gonna need to find that out while we're talking
See,
because
look, like I never put things together. It's just like
because
okay,
did people even
1994
call it
was
the gimp outfit before that movie? I mean, that's the first time. I mean, I was like, I don't know how old I was when Pulp Fiction came out, but that was the first time I like saw that outfit used in like a sexual manner. I had
People
seen people. I
understood.
had seen people wear it. I guess I'd seen it and people understood, but I didn't recall seeing that scene. I mean, I'd seen silly movies like Police Academy, right, where they go into the bar and the guys are wearing the leather out into the gay bar and they're wearing leather outfits.
Yeah,
But I had never seen somebody don like a whole outfit. Like I knew of them, I had just never seen it in like pop culture and. So yeah, I mean, maybe it.
people
So in other
understood
words, I
came
never heard
first.
people use the term gimp outfit until that movie because that's what they called the character that wore it, right? They're like,
Oh
bring
my
out the gimp.
god.
Oh my god, we figured out the connection, man. See,
You- You're on something. People on the stairs came first 3 years before.
Quentin
Oh
Tarantino,
my.
he totally admits though that he uses a ton of homages and tons of callbacks. I mean, Kill Bill is like a total remake of like a kung fu movie, from what I understand. I'm not into kung fu movies. I'm not big into them, but
Yeah.
like he totally does admit. I'll give him those props at least that like he's like, oh yeah, like he's a big cinephile and he imitates a lot of things. So man, now I gotta get Quentin Tarantino on the podcast and ask him if this was done on purpose or not.
Like you saw this actor, like, I need him and a gimp. That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Yeah, he's
Oh
like, because
my
I remember in the
god.
people under the stairs. I remember the daddy wearing that outfit.
I I film for goth clubs and like emo places around LA. I'm not really much of a goth.
Hmm.
I like the style, but I have seen some gimps and I just like I've seen like, them on chains and stuff, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Why? I just want to ask, and like I've had weird, like I wear the masks when I'm going filming to clubs,
Yeah.
and like they think with me it's just no, it's just a costume. I mostly do it for Halloween, but like I love wearing it. But I've had weird responses where like I was talking to a gimp once, and I remember the person that was holding him was like, "Oh no, he has no permission to speak." And I
Wow.
was like, "Oh, you
It's a
guys are freaks. I'm
dominate.
out of here."
Yeah, it's a dominate. I mean, hey, if, like to each their own. I guess it's not my scene either. But yeah,
Oh man,
crazy.
that's
I
where'd
I
you get a
think
gimp outfit?
yeah. I don't know.
Where do you get that?
I'm sure there's stores for it. I mean, there's stores for everything. You could probably get it on Amazon. I'm not even gonna look it up because I don't want the interwebs to start sending me, once you look something up, it keeps popping up. I don't want the
Like
algorithm telling me that I need to.
I would, I would just love to see him buy that. Like him in his like proper outfit, then getting a gimp outfit in a black bag. We know what you're doing, sir. Shame on you.
No, he should
Shame on
we
you.
should he should wear his outfit from for people under the stairs.
Yeah, shame on you, sir.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
before we start closing up on the movie, is there anything else you want to specifically talk about
um,
from the movie?
I from the movie.
Anything else? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and have you start sharing where people can find you.
I want to know about the coins. Do you remember Roach had the coins, but like it was like they mentioned it was like the beginning of the movie. Like that's like the big reason why they went to the house.
Hmm.
But then like he got the coins from Roach, and that was pretty much the end of it. Like yeah, they used it, but like it was like I wish I would have brought up the coins more. Like how did Roach get them and everything?
Yeah, why they had them all there. I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, again, I was reading, I think on Wikipedia, I saw that the gold coins, like they were a legit American Eagle gold coins, and at the time that they were worth like I think $700 around $700 each, and they had how many coins? Like tons of them. So again, like where were they coming from? Why were the people sitting on them? I don't know. I
What
couldn't make
would
sense of it.
what would you do if you were in Fool's place? Like, okay, you got the coins and you're back home. Me, I would move out of the neighborhood.
Heck
Like,
yeah.
Jesus, like they're raising the rent. There's crack in the building, and you remember he was getting harassed. Like, what do you do?
Oh, I'm moving for sure. Like me and my family, we're moving on up. We're going somewhere else. I mean, if there's people in the neighborhood you care about, maybe you bring them with you. I mean, I have a joke with my neighbor. I mean, because we get along really well, and we always joke with each other like, oh, if we win the lottery, like you got to take me with you. I'm a good neighbor. I'm gonna look out for you. I'm not gonna try to, because there's all these horror stories about people win the lottery and their own families trying to rob them. I'm like, I won't try to rob you. I just want to be your neighbor. So just buy me a nice house next door to you. So yeah, I mean, I would be trying to expose like what that family was doing and expose the police, how the police just kind of kept brushing everything. They just would brush it under the rug. Like they showed up and they were like, oh, there's this van here and like whatever. Like And I would be
You got
exposing like, what about all these missing people? Like, what happened to all these? Why are all these kids missing? Like, I would have brought that to light. I would have used that money to shed light on what the Robesons had been up to and
damn. I
improve my
would have been
living
telling the
situation.
cops, you gotta look under the basement. You
Yeah,
gotta look in the basement.
yeah,
Like you can't hide the basement. Even then, they had like that whole electronical system. It was like it's pretty legit.
yeah. That's true. I didn't think about that.
It,
How much thought they put into it.
yeah, but the house it kind of still looked like crap. I'm not gonna lie. It just looks like man, look at like your grandma's house where everything's old, covered in dust. Like I'm gonna stay here for 20 minutes. I'm gonna bounce.
Yeah. Thank you, girl.
Yeah, the TV's like from not the century.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're so surprised everything works. It's just it felt dusty in that place, and I want to know like, have you ever done a movie before?
Have I no? I've done like I when I was younger, I was in a movie. And the funding fell through and it never happened. I played a little Native American girl, and then when I was in the
Oh,
service, I did like this kind of stuff, like interviewee type stuff. But no, I don't know anything about movies making.
like their makeup, like even the mom's makeup, she just looked like I don't know. Like I would look at her and I would feel like exhausted. Like like seeing her as an actress, she's covered in dust, dirt, and that heavy 50s makeup, like 5 pounds of makeup.
Hmm.
Like, oh man, that must be just hell.
Yeah, I think that's what added to the creepy vibe, and that's what I always say. Again, going back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's also what I think is scary about the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like gritty and dark and like everything's like unkept and gross. Like you walk in and you just want to like you're like I don't want to touch anything. Like you could tell
Nah.
these guys were not doing good stuff. And yeah, I guess the house, even though they're living in the 50s, it did look old and like the wallpaper looked like it was all discolored. So yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable. And I'm sure that was done on purpose, like you said, to add to the creepiness of the people what they were doing of
It
the
just has
couple.
a look. You like it just has a look you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I've seen the house in person so many times. If we ever do meet up, I'm gonna show you where it is.
Yeah, I'd love to
Let's
do
kind
that.
let's kind of like, yeah, I don't want to be here. I'm out.
You do it.
Like,
You're like, you can walk up. I'll hang back. Alyse, go ahead. You can go check out the house. You could go up close.
there's another house that has that feeling. I found the Insidious house.
Oh, okay.
Going there is the same thing. It's really like, yeah, it's just out of the way. There's no reason you would be there, but that whole neighborhood, the Insidious house, has this vibe. Like, oh man, something bad's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
That's what happens with creepy houses.
Yeah. Well, so we saw you earlier. You were wearing your mask that you like to cosplay in it. So where can people find your YouTube channel or find you cosplaying and your social media? Tell the listeners about your mask and about what you're doing.
This is Satan Man from Satan's Little Helper. This movie is also hard to find. Like, I went to Amoeba Records and there's like only one copy of it. You're not gonna find it streaming anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, Weirdly, I do not like the movie that much. I think it's alright.
Yeah, it's
I love the character, but he does have a feet fetish, which weirds me out about it as well. So I don't. When I cosplay him, I'm not doing the exact same things he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Gotcha.
like, you can find me on Instagram at NSC 23 Films, and you can find me on YouTube at NSC Campos. Recently, I just did a movie with James Balsamo called Robot Dracula. It'll be out in a couple of months, and I hope everyone loves it. Weirdly, there's a gimp in that movie. I don't know
Uh-oh.
why. I'm cosplaying as a vampire, and then a gimp comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, I didn't see this in the script. What's going on? Like, because of Pulp Fiction, I am scarred from like that whole era of gimps and everything.
Yeah.
What is up with that?
I don't know. That movie scarred me with the scene where where they have to stab the chick in the heart with the adrenaline. Like I'm like, oh,
Oh
yeah, I'm
my
not gonna be
god,
doing
man!
no. There's a reason I never got caught up with doing like hardcore drugs like that because I'm like, nope, I don't want that to ever happen to me. Like, I can't hang with that. I don't even like needles. That scene was like terrifying to me, even though it's not a horror movie.
I'll
Um,
take that over the Pawn Stars, the basement of the Pawn Stars. I'm like, oh god.
yeah, those guys were weird with the gimp stuff. Um,
I want
so
to know more about the Gimp though. What
yeah.
was he doing? Like, is he really chained up there the whole day? Like, I want to ask Winter. Like, even all of his movies, I'm like, hey, where'd you come up with this?
Yeah, I don't know. So that's a movie you made or that you directed or you just
I'm one of the actors in the
okay.
movie. It's no, I'm not really directing. I don't have that much money yet.
Oh, got
But
you.
yeah, I've been in two other movies.
Okay.
Robot Dracula and a movie called Death Bitch with Kenais Brewster.
Oh, okay. Are you going to school for that, or that's just a side hobby interest, or?
It's just a side hobby, you know. I love horror. I just love watching movies, reading about them, you know, finding out the backstory. But being part of a movie is actually pretty fun. They're B movies, and you know, it's kind of fun. Just like you know, you get to know everybody. It's you know, you get to know what people are going through, and it's kind of just like meeting new friends. And it makes you know horror movies not as crazy. That's why I love watching The Exorcist. You know, behind the scenes because you can tell that it wasn't just a couple of weirdos making a movie. It was just a bunch of people, you know, that you know have a lot of passion for the project, and you know they just want to get together and make something that you know captivating with the audience.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for being on. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna say goodbye. I appreciate having you on today, Nelson. It was really cool talking to us about the house and about your experience with the people under the stairs. And again, we'll put your information in the show notes if people want to follow you or check out your stuff. For the listeners, thank you again. If you want to find me, I am on Instagram at Dreadful Dialogue Podcast. We also have blogs and other content on our website, dreadfuldialogue.com. And with that, have a good one.